But this is something that we see a lot of argument about, and we were talking about this earlier, the argument between sweep systems and bud boxes. You have to have a little more skill to work this one correctly. You can work a sweep system without having to be in with the cattle very much. And that's one thing Dr. Grandin really focuses on, because she's not comfortable around cattle. There's no way you could have got her to stand in the alleyway with those big steers running back and forth, and I don't blame her. She's smarter than me, okay? So you have to realize that there's different things that we can take the pressure on. We're no different than cattle. We all have our pressure points. So don't bring more in here than will fit into the lead up. We're gonna bring about 6 at a time. They said this will hold 8 or 9 maybe, max. But I'd just as soon not bring so many. You get better flow. This big box, you could put a boatload of cattle in here, okay? And you could probably get them to feed out of here for a while, because you could push them to the back, release that pressure, and they'd come out. But normally that's not the best approach. So I'll bring some in. We'll get them, go the back side, turn around, come back. And to work a box correctly, you work it from right about here once the cattle start. Your main job is to keep pressure on the front, just like when I was pulling the pin. Where did I work to start with? Front. All right, same thing here. So we're doing a consistent message, right? Every time we ask them to do something, we're working from the front, creating that draw past us. Once you bring cattle to the box, you want to bring them in at a pretty good clip, because you want good flow in here. Because the better the flow is coming in, the better it will be leaving. So now I've got to put pressure on them away from where I want them to go. Get my flow started, come to the front, keep pressure, and then, except for this one, you forget what we were doing. How many times do I have to do that a day? Now, if I had fresh cattle, I would not want these hanging down right at the back. These are called no backs. They're really good tools. But if they're that close to the back and cattle aren't used to going under them, they may balk. So what we normally do is take a rope and pull them up until we get cattle started, and then we can let them down and the rest of them will go under them because you've got your draw started. This double alley system works really good if you're trying to add capacity under a barn or something. You can actually stack 2 or 3 more head in here. It works just as good if it's single file, and we see a lot of people working on this now. They think we've got to have double alley entries, and that's not true. Most bud boxes have only single. Notice that gate is angled. Also, that's not a way a bud box should be designed. That should be straight. Nearly all of them are being built this way now, and it's not necessary to do that. And it creates somewhat of an issue with logistics to get the gate swung around that way. That bud box is probably wider than it needs to be and a whole bunch of other stuff, but it works, so it's not a big deal. Yep, Jenny, I'll get off your bud box later. I saw y'all over here shaking your head. Well, what I don't want people to do is leave in here and think that's what one ought to look like or has to look like. It works, right? But we don't have to design them that way. All right, so now the next part, we've created good flow into here, so you want to fire your chute up. And next, to create that flow and draw through a processing area, a lot of the pressure we see in a processing area is right here. A lot of hot shot use and everything else is right here. Part of that can be eliminated by the way we create and manage draw through here. So ideally, when the animal leaves the chute, the one behind can see him leave. Now, I'll use this analogy. How many of you seen the videos where somebody holds up a blanket, drops it, ducks out of the way, and their pet freaks out? Well, think about that. He just watches his buddy go on the chute. Next time he opens the door, there's nobody there. He just thinks his buddy got vaporized. So why would you go into that? So we can create that draw and flow by doing that. All right, now she has a lot of control on that, but the amount of daylight they see in front of them. I see a lot of processing people that won't open the gate far enough because they're afraid they're going to miss them. With the hydraulic chute, you can use a squeeze to slow them down, so it works pretty good. Okay. Now, if he doesn't go, I'm going to step to the front, down his side, create my draw forward. It's exactly the same thing we were doing outside, drawing cattle forward, okay? Now, as this one's ready to go, she's done through processing, creates her draw coming in. If he doesn't go, I'll step up here and rub my hand down his back. All I'm doing is putting enough pressure to get him to move forward. This one's drawn that calf in. If nothing is happening, and this old yellow steer, I get to mess with him one more time. You ready? Here, I'll step down his side. Now, I would ask her to open it a little more. She don't want to miss him. I understand that. But he's reluctant to stick his head in there, so we're going to have to put more pressure on him here if she doesn't give him a little more daylight. And it doesn't take much. Sometimes an inch is enough to make them change their mind that they can stick their head in there. But before you stick a hot shot to one of them, see if this all works. It makes processing very easy when you let the draw keep them coming. Okay. She's just like I would be on horn cattle. You open it wide enough, they can get their horns through. Sometimes they can get their shoulders in there and get a leg out. So a lot of times you got to be real careful. Plus, if you leave it too narrow, they can break their horns off. So you don't necessarily want that stress on them. But this is hard work, isn't it? Man, killing me. But it's all about how you set up the work and how they've been handled in the past, so the cattle are actually working pretty good. Now notice as she's moving in there, she closes that head gate, how it slows them down. We don't want cattle to run in and hit the head gate. So she's controlling how fast they come in, how fast they hit the head gate. In the hydraulics, you've got the really good ability to squeeze the sides and slow them down even if the fanning of the head gate doesn't work. So why do we want to slow them down? Why don't we care if they hit the front? I see a lot of times we see cattle that really run into a chute and they'll bang into their shoulders and bounce up when they hit it. When you do that, there's lymph nodes up here in the shoulder. And so if they hit that hard enough, it actually bruises the lymph nodes in the shoulders and can cause abscesses, or it can cause the lymph nodes not to be able to process pathogens and other infections in the body or vaccines. And so you don't want them to lunge in there and bruise their shoulders. We used to have a preconditioning yard, and we would have come from an order buyer to us, and they'd have abscesses rupture out the top of their shoulders. And we found out they weren't stopping them with anything but the head gate. They'd run them full tilt into the head gate and cut the head gate and then squeeze them. Once we got that fixed, we stopped having the problems at our preconditioning yard.